The first time Joe Rogan talked or spoke to Graham Hancock, he told a story about when his father went to Gettysburg. And in previous podcasts and interviews, Rogan has said his dad was a no-nonsense cop who hated hippies. So he was like the exact opposite of Rogan in every way and the opposite of a hippie. And he said that when his dad went to Gettysburg, he was miserable. Everyone was around him was miserable. It was like misery was in the air, and he just couldn't understand why everything felt so awful. It was beyond him. Jocko Willink, when speaking to another SEAL, because Jocko Willink was a Navy SEAL commander for 20 years, he's the first commander during the Iraq War, the new one. And he said, just like a sentence, "I don't believe in ghosts, but I've been in rooms that felt haunted," when talking about when they've both been in rooms that were just horrendous. Dick Winters from Band of Brothers, the real one, just when he was on set, the director, producer invited him on to meet the cast, schmooze, all that stuff. And when he walked around to a truck where all the actors were in full uniform, he looked in, they all looked at him and smiled, and he whispered to the director and was like, "I got to get out of here," and he never went back to set. Later, when he was asked about it, he said, "It was like that truck was full of ghosts." David Hackworth, from Jocko Willink's favorite book, About Face. He was a colonel during the Vietnam War, spoke out. It's a great book, go read it. During the Cold War, he was of sufficient, there was a big, during the Cold War in Nuremberg, there was a curfew, and at the time he was of sufficient rank where David Hackworth did not have to adhere to that curfew. He could walk about freely. In one of the chapters, he speaks about how he went to the Nuremberg courthouse, and being of sufficient rank, he knows where everyone is at the time. So being in the courthouse, he knew there was no one in miles of that courthouse. So he was the only human being in that area for miles. And he said that when he went in there, it felt like the courthouse was haunted by the spirits of the guilty. Which is a wild thing for a commander to say, a colonel to say, you know. And bit of a, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a side turn. In Jordan Peterson's first, 12 Rules for Life, Antidote to Chaos, so it's technically a second book. In the 12th chapter, he speaks about how his daughter, horrible pain, horrible autoimmune disease from Lyme disease and all these things, and how switching to the lion diet did that. But in the investigations of her illness, he said that she finally found a doctor who listened to her carefully, took her ankle and rotated it and popped it back into joint. And he says she immediately burst into tears because she wasn't in pain. Now, for some reason, those 5 stories have always felt to me like those 5 people are talking about the same thing, but I don't know what that thing is called. 3 of those stories are from military men, so Willink, Winters, and Hackworth. And one's from law enforcement, Rogan's dad, and the last is from a civilian. But it feels like it's kind of like the broad category of mammals where, like, you know, I mean, on the surface, it's very strange that rats and whales are in the same category of mammals. And it feels to me like the military guys are talking about horses, zebras, and donkeys. Similar, but also different. It sounds like Rogan's dad's talking about something like chimpanzees, and it's different, and it feels like Peterson's daughter is talking, Michaela, is talking about platypuses. Very different than chimps, horses, zebras, and donkeys, but they're all still in that mammal category. So I'm just curious if anyone else has heard these stories and what they think, and what the hell are these people talking about? Like, am I comparing chimpanzees to platypus, or am I comparing apples to sharks here? Does this make sense to anybody else? And about these stories of, like Willink was in the military for over 20 years, and it's like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I've been in places that felt haunted. And it's like, I don't know, that's a cold ass sentence to say, especially from someone like him. And, for Hackworth to say this courthouse feels like it's haunted by the spirits of the guilty. And for a World War II veteran to say that truck was full of ghosts. And for a no-nonsense anti-cop or anti-hippie cop to say it was like misery was in the air and I could touch misery. That's another wild thing to say, and there we are. So I was curious, does any of this make sense to anybody else, or does this thing have a name? What is this thing called? So thank you very much.